Oh, my wife's texting me about I'm reacting because my wife's texting me in the background. This is like, we're going to leave this in because this is how it gets made. She knows I'm in the middle of recording something. And it's all, the only thing that I have on here is to do not disturb. It's like, oh, the wife, she can get through. And she's just made a joke about something I said. And now I'm all thrown off. All right. You're going to notice that we have a much better looking other half of the podcast here. Anyone that was coming in to look at Jack Schott's camp worn face and hair are going to be they're going to be happy here, though they'll be disappointed. But who might be disappointed is anyone who came for looking for Pawn Stars famous Cory Harrison, which is, I don't know, are you aware that there's a person named Cory Harrison on Pawn Stars? Do you know this?
I am, because for the longest time I would get Twitter messages that were for this guy, and then I would just actually reply to all of them. So I'm very aware of that.
Awesome job. Okay, well, so this is like how you do professional podcasting, because I don't even do an intro. Cory Harrison from a little place called ACA, maybe you've heard of it, is with us. I'll say one more thing, just because, I like to make it about me. But there's one other Doug Norrie in the world. He lives in Australia. He's an ex-race car driver, and I get his confirmation when he's going to the doctor because someone put in the wrong email, and I've never corrected it. I've never emailed someone to say this is not me. And so I always know when the other Doug Norrie is headed to the doctor because I get it from his medical center. So there you go.
That's amazing.
When you share a name with somebody, that's how it goes.
That's right. You write him and say, hey, good luck on the appointment today.
I just let it go. He gets no confirmation. He must show up. Because I've never heard anything else. Okay. Here with Cory Harrison from the American Camping Association. Jack Schott hooked it up. He's in the middle of staff training right now. It turns out when you were in staff training, you have 0.0. You actually probably have negative hours or something like that. It translates to negative hours because there's more things you're going to do. Jack, seeing this ahead of time, texted and said, Cory, Doug, you guys do the podcast. Cory's nice enough to do it. Cory, I have a question for you. So I did not, I sent you a pre-list of questions. This one I did not put on there. I didn't put the Pawn Stars thing on there either. So I was talking to someone in camping. I'm not going to say who it was. This would be someone that I suspect most people listening to this podcast would have at least heard of. I would just mention, you and I had talked a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, about something else. I mentioned to this person, and all he said was, his face lit up, and he said, Cory, he's one of my top 5 ever people in camping. Why do you think someone would why do you think someone would label you like that? I'm putting you on the spot. This is a chance for you to brag about yourself.
Look, I don't know what it means to be top 5 in camping, but I'll take it as high praise from whoever it came from. I guess as I look back over my camp career, I have done a couple of things right and built some successful camps, and I think done it in a way that has both set those camps up long-term for success without my leadership there. And maybe people look at that and say that's valuable. I think the second thing is I'm always willing to give my time, talk to whomever I can talk to about camp. I love camp, and excited to talk about that with you today. So maybe that's it. Did they tell you why? Is there an answer?
It's obvious, right? Well, I think we just shook our heads and just said it's obvious. It's like, who could disagree with that? Nah, he didn't give a reason why. He just said it was along the lines of just being super professional, driven, success oriented, but also just all the kind of things you said, open to talking down to people. I mean, example of, there's 2.5 people that listen to this podcast. You said yes. You said yes instantly to jump on it. So if it's good for camping, it's good for everyone. All right.
Yeah, love it.
You just got a new gig with a little organization. Maybe some people have heard of it, called ACA. I can see the banner hanging in the background there. Give us the quick. Oh, there you go. Look at that. It's on the fly.
Yeah.
Give us the quick rundown of what it means to be COO in the American Camping Association. You and I talked a little off air, and I'm hoping to actually go into a little bit of sort of what the goals are too. But give us as many minutes as you need to make sure that everyone understands what this gig looks like.
Yeah. So the American Camp Association serves the entire camp world. To put that in perspective, there are 20,000 camps in the U.S., both overnight, day camps, camps on campus, all kinds of different camps. There's 20,000. There's over 1 million people employed annually by camps, and 26 million kids go to camp each summer. That's half of the school age population. So the work that ACA does is incredibly broad reaching. It does its work on some different in different ways. The most recognizable and maybe arguably one of the most important is ACA accreditation. That's our safety and quality guidelines. Over 350 of them that camps can sign up for. More and more. When I was a camp director, I found more and more parents asking, is your camp ACA accredited? My wife, who's a camp director, is getting those same questions. And so this whole idea of accreditation is huge. We also do professional development. Right now, we're giving out $40 million in grants to camps who are looking at building new and innovative character programs over the next 5 years. We do a ton of work in data, education, program delivery, and all of those things. So the work that ACA does, I think, is incredibly impactful. I'm a product of an ACA camp. I spent 13 summers at the same summer camp, 8 as a camper, 5 on summer camp staff at an ACA accredited camp. I've worked in ACA accredited camps and ACA member as an ACA member throughout my entire career. And now by one of those moments where the timing lines up in just the way that it should, the dream job opened up and I get to be the chief operating officer. So I oversee the program delivery teams, the inclusion education teams, the marketing, Marcom teams, accreditation falls under that, and a sales team. So it's an exciting job and love doing it.
Yeah, the sales team was actually something you and I talked about, which I thought was super interesting because I think people would hear, my guess is people would hear sales team coming from an organization like ACI. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am on this one. And they would hear you say sales team and you're like, sell what? Right? Because right. Actually, let me ask you this. Am I correct in that? Like, am I correct in people thinking that like, oh, why would ACA need a sales team? Is that a common thing? I'm fine to be the outlier in being like, oh, I think people would raise their eyebrows at that. But am I?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that uncommon of a question because I just rattled off a bunch of stats to start this talk. And in there, I talked about 26 million kids going to camp. The reality is 12% of those kids are at an accredited camp. That is insanely low. And as an organization that is intent on providing education in the area of camp safety, camp program quality, in all of these different ways that ACA responds to camps, we have to have more than 12% of those kids at an accredited camp. So how do you do that? We stop running away from the kind of negative side of the word sales. And we start talking about like we have a quality program. The people who are members and accredited speak highly and love it. We just got to do better at getting the brand out there and why it's important. And so that's what a sales team is gonna help us do. By the way, it's not in place yet. That sales team is not in place, but we need people to bring people in, to bring leads in, to answer those questions so that we can then pass them off to the people who really do the engagement. And that's our field team and engagement managers. And they do incredible work.
Do you think camp people, I mean, look, I'm not at a staff training right now. Like I don't work at a camp. This is a very clear, you can see from my background that I'm not in a camp building. But do you think people, you said something like, the negative idea behind sales. Do you think that camp people in general are indexed a little? This is such a loaded question because I already know my answer. But like, do you think camp people in general think of the idea of sales in like a negative fashion like that? Like, do you think that the intersection of what it means to run a camp runs counter to what it means to like actually sell something, or the perception of what it takes to sell something? I don't think it has to be a sleazy thing, but like, does that make, I hope I'm asking that question correctly.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Let me shift out of ACA COO hat and into camp director hat. All right. Cause I want to make sure I'm speaking from the right places. So I'm reflecting back on The last 15 years that I've run two different YMCA camps, and 10 years prior to that running another organization's camps. I think, yes, we often can look at sales in a negative light, and maybe it's because we use some other words to describe it. Maybe we call it recruitment because it sounds nicer, and so there's the idea of recruitment that happens in camps, but there often can be this thing that trickles inside of us that we believe so strongly in the product that we're delivering to kids, right? Like, we love our camp. We want other people to love our camp as much as we do. We think you should love our camp without us trying to convince you should.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough spot to be in. We often think of this when you think about staff and the way that staff have changed, seasonal staff have changed, even just going back pre-pandemic to now, this is a different type of staff, and we just cannot expect that our staff care about our camp as much as we care about our camp. If we want them to, and we want them to work as hard for camp as we do and care and love it as much, then we got to get into some revenue sharing discussions, which we're not willing to do in camp, right? So the reality is, it's our job to love camp, but it's also our job to be listening and meeting the needs of the campers today. And I think sometimes we just are so bought into our project, we just think everybody else should love it as much as we do. How could you not? Right. That sets you in a bad posture.
That's a great point. I think that working in this, even some somewhat limited time working in this field, but knowing camp for a long time, right? It's like I can speak very coherently and cleanly about like why it's so great. And then you take one more step up when you're someone that's sitting, like you're the owner, the exec, or just you work at a camp. It's like, oh, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. Why wouldn't you come here? But then I was working with a good friend of mine is a very high level speech coach, and for like TED Talks and things like that. And we were talking about being able to shift between like the old world and the new world, and to be able to like actually speak to people who are trying to make a big decision like this or are not bought in or whatever. You have to shift back and try to understand what they're thinking, and that would be considered old world. Like you have to go to their old world and be like, show that you really understand that, so that you can sort of like incrementally bring them to the new world, which is your thing, right? Like this is for any product or anything that any idea you're trying to espouse. And when he said that, I was like, oh man, this cohort of people, it's no fault of theirs, really struggles with this because they spend all year and all summer at their place and they see it's amazing. And like you said, and they simply cannot access the part where you wouldn't be also bought into it. And then the risk with that is it becomes off-putting, or just like shuts people out. It's like, oh, if you don't get it, then you don't get it. Does that make sense? I think that we don't shift between old world and new world enough.
In many ways, it becomes the opposite of what we're all trying to do in camp, is be a welcoming environment. But we've like, sometimes we can just hone in on our thing, fit into our thing. This is who we are, that we often forget that there's a lot of there's a lot of new people coming into camp. I'll give you a great example. When I got to Camp Greenville back in 2016, the retention rate of that camp from one summer to the next was about 38%. So for every 1,000 kids that came to that camp, 600 said, "No way, I'm going back." That takes that causes you to have to take a hard look at, okay, why are people not coming back? What is it that we're missing? What could we be doing differently? And that gets really hard when your camp is steeped in tradition and it's steeped in history, and it has all these things that sometimes a lot of camps that have so much history, if they don't figure out how to translate that history in the right way to the new campers coming in and the new staff coming in, you'll have a camp steeped in history with not a lot of kids at it.
My wife's texting me about I'm reacting because my wife's texting me in the background. This is like, we're going to leave this in because this is how it gets made. She knows I'm in the middle of recording something. And it's all, the only thing that I have on here is to do not disturb. It's like, oh, the wife, she can get through. And she's just made a joke about something I said, and now I'm all thrown off. Like she made a joke about about my friend, the speech coach, who we like have just said she just knows, and now she just completely threw me off. So if you saw me stumble there, we're gonna leave.
No, it's okay. Can you ask her if she has Cory Harrison in her top 5 of camp directors in the country?
But she's heard me talk offline about you, so I'm sure you already are. It's like Jack. I'm trying to think who else I've talked about. I've talked about it. I'm sure you're already there. I'm all thrown off. She should know better. Okay. No, I think that's like I think sometimes when I talk to camp people, they want to lead with the history part, and I'll sit down with someone new, and I'll just and I just have a whole process when I talk to people. I have a whole process of just like getting you to talk about your camp, right? Like that's just like the main thing. And so many start with the history, which I get. But I usually just say, that's great. Well, you care. Nobody else really cares. Like, and that's probably taking it a little too far because people do care, but it's mostly to level set on we can mention it once. After that, we have to move on to actually things that move the needle, right? Because there's like Ford doesn't talk about how great the Model T was, when it first came out for a reason, because like the F-150 is just better now. Like it's just like, we were the first ever car off the assembly line or whatever, the first mass produced car. It's like, sounds great. Nobody cares. Like, and so I do think that there's a little bit of a disconnect there where you want to be, you are really bought into that historical piece, but it's just going to be really hard to translate it to everybody else. I'm not sure that's like every camp has that problem, but I know a lot want to look at that as like this is a major selling point, but it's just, I'm just like not sure that it is.
Yeah, and I don't think that means you just abandon the history of a camp.
No.
Again, I'm in my camp director hat, but if I'm at a camp and this camp has the retention rates that my previous camp had, and we realize that first-time campers are not returning at the rate that is even camp industry standard, the first thing I would do is begin to ask myself, why is that happening? And I did that and basically bought Amazon gift cards for all of the families who are not returning, sent them and said, hey, tell us why you're not coming back. And you'll find that there's a pretty easy kind of collective of reasons. Issue 1, issue 2, issue 3. So I don't have to get rid of the entire camp history or tradition or anything that really matters to people, but you begin to realize what actually matters to people and what doesn't. And if you can just adjust those things, you can begin to make giant leaps forward. And so, I think that's like a big part of what we have to do when we're talking about selling camp.
One thing I get concerned, I would like your opinion on this. This was also not in my preloaded questions, but I think you're going to have an opinion on this. I get concerned in working with this industry about speaking to the people who have never been to summer camp and that have like plenty of other options in the summer. Like I would say that's like the blue ocean for camps, right? Like the blue ocean is all the people out there who they themselves have never gone. They're not even coming close to thinking that as like this is their first option for their kids. And although it would be good, but they just like not, it just doesn't sit in the hierarchy, right? Like they have plenty of other things going on and they just wouldn't choose this first. So they really need to be brought along. Yeah. But I think like, do you think that's going to need to happen eventually for like the camp industry? Like, do you think it's critical to try to like reach this group of people and like sort of like bring them into the process? Or do you think it's like fine, the graph looks okay without it? Does that make sense? Like I think that there's this entire population. By the way, it's like everyone I know. No one I know sends their kid to summer camp, except for like me and my family. So I think about this group all the time. But I don't know if that's just a fool's errand either. Like which I'd be happy for you to tell me it's a fool's errand because I would stop thinking about it. But it vexes me because I think about this group all the time because I'm like, I really think this group of never been there, no reference points, just have other things to do, just do fine, kids are fine, don't need this at all or don't think they need it. Yeah. But I'm also convinced that like the camp industry that kind of like needs this group too. But like, please talk me off the ledge, or do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I think that in that group of people need camp too. It's just going to be approached slightly differently than somebody who knows camp, grew up at camp. They want to send their kids to camp. So the question is, what approach do you come at? Do you come at like this data-based sales approach? I was listening to somebody that I love talk about how we should, like 9 weeks before camp, hook heart monitors up to kids and track all of that, like heart progress and movement and exercise and things like that. And then also do the 9 weeks of during camp, and then talk about how kids are so much more active at camp than they are not at camp. And I'm like, and do what with that? What would you do with that information? Because the real question is, there's a mom sitting in Milwaukee watching Netflix, and we're trying to figure out how do we explain the value of camp to her. And heart monitors and kids are more active at camp. Of course they are. I don't think if you asked anybody, do you think kids are more active at summer camp than they are at school?
Right.
Yes, right. Like we all agree. The question is,
yeah.
How are you approaching it? I came at Camp Greenville. We were in an area where there were about 75 camps within a 100-mile radius. People from the outside of the camp world would always say to me, well, which camp is like your biggest competition, or what are your biggest competitions camp? And I would always say Disney World, youth sports. Nice. Yep. Those are our biggest and ourselves. I'd start with ourselves. We are our own biggest competition. Are we improving? Well, okay. Are we improving? Are we getting better? Are we listening? I send surveys out the day after a parent leaves from a week-long. If they were at a week-long session, I'd send the survey out the very next day. Get the information while it's fresh. Because if I send it out on that same day they picked up their camper, or the very next day, I can make changes immediately. And I hear from camps all the time that are sending end of summer survey. That means you've collected a whole bunch of data about how the food sucked, how this counselor wasn't great to their kid, or this counselor was the absolute rock star of all counselors, and never took time or had the time to acknowledge, pivot, change, adjust, course correct. And so you've got to be willing to collect data fast, hear it, listen to it, and go and make moves on that. And so that's what I mean by ourselves. If we aren't doing that, then we're our own competition. We're fighting against ourselves. I think from the Disney perspective, Disney's providing two things: fun and magical experiences. That's what Disney does. Also, that's what we do. We're providing fun and magical experiences. And I think that, and there was a day where we say, and we're not as expensive as Disney, but we know in a lot of camps that's not true anymore.
Yeah, that's not true.
It might be cheaper to go to Disney World than it would be to go to camp. What we can point to is the value of camp, the impact on a kid's character, that we are teaching the skills that AI will never be able to duplicate. Angus Fletcher writes about this in Primal Intelligence, this whole idea of what are the things that AI will never be able to do. These are things we're taking 10 kids that come from different socioeconomic, different racial, different religious backgrounds, different upbringings, throw them into a cabin, and then we're saying, hey, figure out how to live together. If that isn't the most real world, real work life experiment, I don't know what it is. Figure out how to clean together. Figure out how to choose an activity together. So we, I think, have a selling message even against the youth sports of the world, the Disney World, or whatever family vacation it is, and ourselves become the biggest competition.
I'll tell you right now, Disney sales would absolutely tank, and so would youth sports would tank if they said, oh yeah, you can do this, but just drop your kids off and leave. Like if Disney ran on a situation where you dropped them off at the front gates of the Magic Kingdom and the parents had to turn back around and get back on the plane and go home, like obviously Disney would tank. So it's like, there's like, they're selling the magic and the experience, but also that you're all together. Like, the part where you have to sell it on the, oh, we have these other things, but you actually just need to drop them off here and peace out and go home. Like that's the other part that makes it impossible to sell. By the way, travel sports works. Every parent complains about it, but they all secretly like it too. Like where you do travel sports with your kids. Like if your kids are in high level travel sports, you're right there with them. Like for the most part, right? And so watch what would happen to those industries if you just had to have them just mirror the same model as camp. So it makes it even, it makes it even that much harder. Because actually, I really would think they're really selling the togetherness part of it, which I actually think travel sports is good for, by the way. Like everyone wants to rip travel sports. The good part about it is that you just spend a lot of time with your kid. Right. And like that's a good thing. And camps just can't compete on that, which makes it extra. I'm just saying it just makes it extra hard.
Yeah. And we need to lean into that differentiation.
Agreed.
Because the reality is what we're trying to accomplish is very different than, even though we're providing fun and magic, it's still slightly different than what Disney's providing you sports. We're providing independence, confidence,
autonomy,
decision-making, autonomy. Yeah. So the skill set that we're trying to get kids fits very well in the drop them off and say goodbye and come back later. But you cannot do that without a high level of trust, especially with the fact that 93% of parents at the camp that my wife runs right now are millennial moms. That is a different type of parenting than a Gen X parent like me, than my parents parented me. Not better, not worse, but different. And I hear camps like across the country ridiculing today's parents. And I promise you, if you want to go to battle against the parent, you are on the losing end. So how do I build trust? Yes, you're going to lose. Right. These parents have different levels of concern. My parents never once sent me to school and thought, I wonder if he's going to get shot. Never occurred to them to ask. That is not the world in which our parents live today. And so they love their kids. And since their kids were in kindergarten, they've been getting updates on an app that says, Johnny went poop. Johnny did a good thing, and it's like giving them updates. And we can run away from that all we want, but I believe you have to partner with parents. At my last camp at Camp Greenville, we had an app called Camp Greenville Live. Any parent could join into the live experience of camp whenever they wanted to log on. We had hired people who were walking around videoing and photoing what was happening at camp to say, we can't have you here with the kids, and you don't really want to be here. You want your kids to experience independence and all of those things, and your kids want that as well. But we also want you to feel like you're experiencing camp with them. So here's what's going on. Here's the menu. Here's the activity list. So, and it also helped when a kid comes home and a parent says, well, man, I paid for horseback riding. My kid said he never went horseback riding. You go, oh, well, right here is on the schedule. He went 4 times, Oh yeah, I forgot I went horseback riding. So it's a double-edged benefit.
Man, I can just hear, we can get out of here in a second, but I can hear camp directors and they're absolutely, their butts clench hearing that, like around like around people walking around with a camera. By the way, good on you. I think that if you're just trying to cater to this new thing, when camping started, this is probably a little apocryphal, but when camping started back in the turn of the century, it was because everyone thought that boys were getting soft because they were could ride bikes and we're going to school, and it was hey, we better kick them out into the woods and just have them come back in a few weeks. It's okay, that's what they needed then, but then the world changes and looks different, and now if the world changes and looks different like this, you just have to accommodate. And I know there's people out there that do not want to do this stuff. I saw presented hey, should we let parents come to camp with kids? Someone at Tri-State said that, and I saw a couple people sort of it's not an interesting idea, and a couple people just were turned around and walked away because it was so crazy. But I'm you have to. I'm not saying to do it. Don't start it. Don't start parent and kid session 1 tomorrow. But you have to at least be open to the idea that it might look different than whatever it looked like before, because history is just chocked full of it used to look one way and it looks different now. That's literally what history is. And that's it.
When I was a camp director, I could stress current camp directors out even more by saying the first thing I did is I walked through the car line where parents were dropping off their kids and handed every parent my cell phone number. I said 24 hours a day, this is your contact. You call me if you got a gut feeling and it just doesn't feel right. I will go find your camper. I won't tell them that you asked me to. And I will take a quick picture and I'll ask them what their favorite activity was. I will do that for you. Every parent phone call sounds the same way. It starts just like this. Hey, Cory, I don't want to be that parent, but every parent is that parent. And when I didn't have to do that? Their second summer. It was almost as if the trust was built. It was there. So we're showing you photos. Your kid is safe. You're seeing videos. You're seeing what they're doing. I'm doing Facebook Lives every week from camp. I'm giving you my cell phone number where you can access unprecedented transparency, which, by the way, is what we need when we hear like the negative stories of things that can be happening at camp. We're giving transparency. You almost only have to do it the first year. You almost never have to do it the second year because they trust you. But gone are the days where you can just say, hey, drop your kid off. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I found this 18-year-old who was in a fraternity at Clemson. He'll take care of your son, right? Like that day is gone. No offense.
You rolled in. He rolled in from the frat party, but do not worry. He's great. He's great at archery, so you're not gonna have to worry about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cory Harrison, ACA, absolutely crushing it. Really appreciate it. He jumped on here. Kind of a last thing. Jack sort of just strong armed him into doing it, and Cory was super good sport about it. Really appreciate it. You don't have to feel like you have to give your cell phone number on here so every camp director can call you. Although I'm assuming they can contact you if they want.
Oh, absolutely. My cell phone number is in the signature of my email, but find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. So if you're watching, I think you said what 2.5 million people watch.
Divide that by 1 million. And then we get
2.5 million by 1 million. Watch this. Find me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk camp with anybody who wants to talk camp. Love talking with you, Doug. This has been great.
All right. Cory, thanks so much.
Yeah.